All right, we are live. Welcome, guys. Modern American Dream Podcast, episode 65. If you haven't listened, go back and listen to episode 64. It's with Adam Hergenrother. And Hallie is actually his chief of staff. Is that correct?
That is, yes.
All right. We'll let my brother do his off-the-cuff introductions that he likes to do, so I'll let him introduce you.
This is super informal, so like you might as well just relax because it's not gonna go how probably any other podcast goes. How do we know you? I introduced Adam myself, and I was like, you guys can all read the description if you want. Your name to me in real estate rings bells, right? Because you essentially are the person that like runs her group, and then as time goes on, we're all hearing that like you're running the whole show, and that you were a super instrumental piece in just getting a lot of stuff off the ground and implementing a lot of stuff that Adam is a visionary for. And it seems like over time, from first of all, you were never really doing videos, were you?
No.
Yeah. So it seems to me personally like you have grown into a more confident person, and clearly you've grown into a bigger position, and you're running a company or Herd Life Companies, which is like 7 different companies or something crazy like that.
Well, yeah. So I don't run any of Adam's companies. I run Adam. So that would be a better way probably to say it. I mean, he and I are partners, so we work together. So we have a great leadership team for all of our 8 companies underneath the Adam Hergenrother Companies umbrella.
8 total?
What's that?
8 total companies?
I mean, honestly, depending on who I'm talking to, sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 8, sometimes it's 10. I mean, we just acquired two more and started another one a couple weeks ago. So,
that's awesome.
There's like 5 or 6 core, and then there's lots of other little other companies happening.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And you're the chief of staff, the co-author of the founder and the force.
Multiplier.
I was getting to that. So on the next line. And entrepreneur and business and career consultant. Do we need to know anything else about you before we get the show on the road?
I got something. In her free time, she likes to pursue hobbies like reading, blogging, kayaking, traveling, preferably the beach.
Yes.
She lives in Vermont with her husband Bill and their dog Karma.
Yes. That about sums it up.
And the first time she came in to interview with Adam, she was wearing a black business suit and purple stilettos.
Jeez. That's from the book. That is true. You guys did your
research. It is true.
Dude, it's homework. It's about time.
Dude,
I always
put
tell
in
him.
time, man.
I'm like, you got to do your homework. You can't be lazy. And he just gets started doing his homework.
That's awesome. Yeah. And today I'm wearing a leather jacket and sneakers. So
that's it. Well, you're on a Zoom call.
All right, so let's jump right in. Let's unpack this a little bit. So Adam is a visionary, and you guys wrote a book together, which I plan to pick up and read as well. So we interviewed Adam yesterday, and he had so many big ideas and so many different companies and so many things he was talking to us about. And basically what you do for Adam is you're his chief of staff. You're helping him implement all of these big ideas that are bubbling up in his head. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, so I really consider I consider my role for Adam being and ensuring that his vision is organized, clarified, communicated, delegated, and then executed. I'm usually not always the person to be doing that. We both work through our various team members and our leadership team to accomplish that vision. I do, however, work closely with him on anything that he is working on. So for example, if he has to be involved in Project U, I'm involved with Project U. If he is working on a new formation of a new company, I'm working on the formation of the new company. So, and then once it's formed, we turn it over to other people to actually run. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. And how did you guys meet first? Like, how did he find you?
Yeah, so he found me on Craigslist, and I started working with him as a listing assistant on his real estate team. At that time, he had his real estate team, which was already very successful in Vermont. And then he also had just opened up a Keller Williams market center.
Yeah.
So that's when I started working on his team as a listing assistant, marketing assistant. I did that for about 3 months. His executive assistant was the one who actually hired me. And then after about 3 months, he called us into his office and we ended up switching roles. She went back to being the listing assistant and I took over as EA, and the rest is history.
Got it. So you started out being an executive assistant specifically for the real estate business, and then you grew on to kind of be a little bit more and oversee the other businesses.
Yeah, well, none of the other businesses existed. So like the next year after I started working with him, we started expansion. The year after that, we started the construction company and a capital firm. And then a year after that, it was just on and on and on. Every year we just started doing other things.
Got it. And I don't know if this is a good question, or if this is true, but I feel like as a leader or visionary of the company, a lot of times the credit goes to the person who people see on the cover, right? Like, or their name on the business, like Adam Hergenrother companies. How do you maintain being fine with not always getting the credit, or is it just not your personality type? So you're cool with it. Like, how does that work? Because I know sometimes people in business, the biggest problem they come across is like say for example, me and my brother, he's getting all the credit, and I'm like, dude, I'm doing all the work.
Yeah, so a great chief of staff, and this is I read this on any chief of staff levels. Like one of my favorite books is called The Gatekeepers, and it's about the White House chiefs of staff, which is really how I think of my role.
Yeah,
is most aligned to that role. And great chiefs of staff have to be behind the scenes, and they have to have no ego. And if you have ego and if you need to be in the spotlight, you're probably not going to be a great chief of staff. So it's just part of my behavior. I don't need the credit publicly. I don't even want it. My job is making sure that Adam and the company and all of our leaders get the support that they need, and they can be out front. I don't need to be.
Wow, that's my problem. My chief of staff wants to, like, there's a limelight in here facing at him.
I'm a terrible chief of staff. I know that. I couldn't compete with you. I'm a chief of no staff. Chief of rap. That's me.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, like, what now? You guys started other companies, right? After the real estate company was already successful.
Mm-hmm.
Adam finds you through
Craigslist.
And before that, you were an assistant to a principal of a high school.
Yes. Yes,
right?
I was.
And now, is this so different and so fulfilling that you've been in this role for a while? Is that a while? Like, you've been there for what, 9 years?
10 as of last week. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that like being on that team? Is it super fulfilling? And do you see your career like constantly growing?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while for all intents and purposes, I'm still Adam's right hand, his force multiplier. I was that 10 years ago. I am that today. The role is completely different. Obviously, I mean, I was working with clients. You know, I've done everything in the past 10 years, from working with clients to handling property management to, delivering client gifts and all of that stuff. And that looks drastically different than what I do today, which is work with Adam and our leadership team on strategy, provide counsel to them, work on hiring key leadership team members, and really problem solving. I mean, that's what I do all day, is just solve problems.
Now, how did that grow? Like, when you got in there, if we could take this back to like 9 years ago, 10 years ago, and you got in there and you, like, what happened? Did Adam have like a shit show that you could tell us about?
And you came in and you're like, this is what I did. You came in with a broom.
No, because his team was already super successful, right? Like, I actually always, we don't often talk about Adam's wife, Sarah, but Sarah taught me how to be in a real estate admin operation, like what we call now as a director of ops. Like, that's really what I was doing more than being his EA. I was handling stuff on the team and doing all the operations. She really took me under her wing and taught me. She had all the systems in place, so she taught me how to do that stuff initially. And then I just started building on top of that over the years. And then what I became good at doing was leading Adam and partnering with Adam and hiring. And that's where we spend collectively, that's where we spend the most of our time, is leading, hiring, reorganizing people in the most efficient way for the organization.
Even today?
What's that?
That's most of your day. That's most of the things you spend doing today.
Yeah.
So it's leading, hiring, and repositioning people, and I'm sure firing.
Yeah, we don't have to do too much firing though, which is wonderful.
Is that because you guys do such a good job at hiring?
I think so. I mean, we get it wrong sometimes. We definitely get it wrong from time to time. But yeah, I mean, like especially on our leadership team. I mean, we have a lot of longevity on our leadership team, anywhere from 5 to 7 years or 10 years. So,
wow,
I think that's pretty good.
That's good. So it sounds like you got a good grasp on hiring. So let me ask you, what is the 3 to 5 ththings that you look for when you're hiring a person?
Depends on the position, but since I typically am hiring for a leadership position, I would say there's so many things. There's
as many as you want.
Yeah, there's a drive. Like there needs to be this like drive behind them, this drive to succeed, this drive to work, not hard necessarily, but smartly. That's a big one for me. Behaviorally, we just need them to be like fast-paced, responsive, really invested in the company. It does not that they can't have a life outside the company. We all do, and we believe in the work-life integration, but that they truly believe that they find fulfillment in expressing themselves through the work that they do. That's really big for me. Gosh, what else? I'm trying to think of positions I've hired for more recently. Obviously, it's like you got to check the box on the skills depending on what you're hiring for. But yeah, it's that drive. It's that drive to want to be a part of something beyond themselves and beyond a paycheck, and to contribute in some way to the organization. Someone who's a creative problem solver and wants to create, and somebody who's very entrepreneurial is very critical for our organization at this point in our growth.
Even though they're a salaried employee, you really look for them to be entrepreneurial?
100%. If they're not going to survive in this world.
Got it. And are their salaries or pay structure tied in any way to entrepreneurial performance?
Totally depends on the position. Generally not. For like most of the positions, it's not. But after 6 months or a year, that might be the next level in their compensation, is some sort of incentives, equity, that sort of thing.
Now we're talking about different companies across different industries, not just real estate related, correct?
Yeah, I mean, mostly we're obviously in real estate, construction management, development. Even our coaching and training company is largely based in real estate, and the corresponding companies like mortgage and insurance, title.
So everything kind of spheres around this real estate company.
It does, yeah.
So when you hire a person in a leadership position, right? Are they going out and building that team for a new company? Are they hiring the next people? Because you said you mostly hire people in leadership position.
Yeah, I mean, we really have those 5 core companies at this point. So we don't have to do a ton of leadership hires, I will say. Like right now, for example, I'm hiring an HR manager. Are they truly leadership? Maybe, maybe not, right? It's not like I'm looking for a CEO of our next organization. But in general, so we've got the 5 core companies, and the leadership staff for them is quite solid. So if I'm looking for talent, it might be for a position that we don't even know we don't even have yet, or we don't plan on hiring for yet. So for example, I often am looking for talent for COOs, CFOs, HR talent for Adam Hergenrother companies for the next, I would say 12 to 24 months. Those are the positions that we have probably are kind of coming down the line. And then yes, if and when we decide to start another company, which we are working on doing right now in a couple of different arenas, then Adam and I are always saying, well, who's going to run that? Is there somebody internally that can run that? If not, then we need to go outside of the organization and hire, because neither one of us is actually going to be running that company. So we need to make the hire for somebody who is, and then yes, they in turn would go hire.
You guys need a CEO? I'm available. I'm underpaid.
Where do we apply? This is going to turn into like her interview with us.
That's funny. Yeah.
That's cool. What was your biggest challenge when you first joined the company, like the real estate company?
Yeah, I don't even know. God, it's such a long time ago. I don't feel like there was any huge challenges. But I also really thrive on challenges. So if I didn't have a bunch of challenges, I would have been incredibly bored and I would have left. So if anything, I mean, the learning curve to learn real estate was there. I knew nothing about real estate. I had an interest in real estate, but I knew nothing about it. So that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
I don't want to say there were no challenges, but like work
And
is
it's cool. It's cool if there wasn't, like.
yeah. I mean, there's a million, like dealing with lawsuits and firing staff and hiring and morale issues, and you know, these are all startup and scale up companies. So at certain different points of the organization, budgetary issues, but that stuff's fun. So
That's cool. So maybe you just don't see them as challenges. You just see them as opportunities to like grow and be better or whatever.
yeah. I mean, sometimes like if there's not a problem, I might end up creating one just to have something to do.
Oh, wow. Michelle, you want to elaborate on this? This is Michelle. She works on our team.
Do you have a story to share about that?
Not listen to that. This explains a lot.
We were just talking about this today. That's awesome. Now, where you are in business now, and you guys started these other companies, and you were on board for most of this, and the company that you're starting now, which is what? Can we know, or is it a secret?
I don't know. I didn't listen to your recording yesterday. Did Adam share anything about it?
Adam told us everything.
Everything? Yeah. Well, I mean, we started a renovations company that was like a month ago. We are working on we're working on all the things that are in Adam's Disney: mortgage, title. We've got several more books that we're planning on writing here in the next 2 years. I have 3 at least that I want to write, and Adam has 1 that he wants to write. So we're going to work on those. And then, yeah, we're working on some technology. So we're working on a SaaS company as well.
That's awesome.
Next big thing.
Now, like, you're obviously getting good at putting companies together. Is the process the same after, like, you do 2 or 3 companies? Is it like, we're going to start another company, we've got to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G?
Good question. Yeah, I would say for most of them, because there's a low barrier to entry in the companies that we are entering into, like renovations or real estate, that sort of thing. Mortgage and title are different. We have a team who's actually working on that. Some of our staff from Hergenrother Realty Group and actually staff from another one of our companies is really heading up the charge on that.
Yeah.
I'm better at putting the team in place, or helping Adam put the team in place and letting them do the research and the actual implementation and the setup. A technology company is a completely different animal, and we are learning a lot on that.
Because it's just like completely different than.
Yeah, I mean,
low barrier to entry for a technology company, right?
Sorry, what did you say?
It's not a low barrier to entry.
Correct. Yes, you definitely need to have capital to invest in order to get that started. Not that you don't need capital in other organizations and other companies, but you know what I mean. Like it's those are
real estate. It's different.
Totally. Yeah.
What you love to read, right? And
I do. Yes.
What were the 3 best, like, most important seminars that you think you went to?
Okay.
And what were the 3 best, like, most important books that you would be like, you got to read this?
Okay, sure. 3 seminars. I don't know. I can give you 2 that I like that really come to mind.
Right.
I mean, I do love all the Keller Williams. So that's just, but that's for me, that's like, I love the networking and the energy that comes from those. From more of a tactical perspective, well, when it was Recruit Select, I went to that for God, I don't know how many times. And then now Career Visioning, love that course. That's for me, that's one of the best courses that I've taken over the years.
Yeah.
And then actually last year I went to the Chief of Staff Summit in DC. So that was amazing.
Was that a Keller Williams thing as well?
Nope. That was hosted by Prime Chief of Staff. And so there's chiefs of staff from all industries, a lot from government. And it was really, really incredible.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Can I jump in and really quickly ask, right? So in essence, what you're doing is building businesses, right? You're helping Adam build businesses.
Correct.
But coming into this, did you have prior experience? I know my brother did some homework, but did you have prior experience building businesses and hiring?
I was 25 and had worked at a nonprofit in a very small town as a marketing assistant. And then I worked in another very small town as an EA to a principal. That was my experience.
So if somebody was trying to do what you're doing for somebody else and be a chief of staff and grow into that position, what would be the one course, just one, or the one class or the one mentor that you think would help you get to that level where you could help somebody like my brother build multiple companies? And it's not going to be me. I ain't no chief of staff.
We got one thing fair. Like, we're going to fire him after this. So,
I'm sure there's an opportunity that's perfectly suited for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you saying somebody who wants the career path that I've chosen?
What's their best way to learn to do what you do?
Yeah.
With no experience, because you didn't have experience. You learned from somewhere.
Total. I kind of made some of it up as I went along. Read a shit ton of books and just I dove into leadership, and I did do a lot initially, learning about being an executive assistant, but then I quickly realized about 4 years in, I realized that there's a different career path, and that I'm actually not as best suited for. I'm more suited for a chief of staff role. So yeah, they can take our course. So Adam and I are actually hosting a course starting November 4th called the Founder and the Force Multiplier, where we dive into a lot of these things for both the founder and their right hand on how to best work together, but also how to create these careers and these businesses. So that's one way. I obviously take a very small number of coaching clients every year. So that's I'm actually coaching 2 EAs who are moving into a chief of staff role right now. What else? In the books, really, for me, it was all about reading lots and lots of books.
Give us your favorites.
Yeah, so I mentioned The Gatekeepers already. I loved that book because it gave me a different perspective on the chief of staff role. Obviously a non-corporate perspective, which I really appreciated because, again, it's how I try to show up in my role like that.
Yeah.
The book Chief of Staff by Tyler Paris is also fantastic. And then I think it's all about leadership books. I mean, I made it a point to read everything that Adam was reading. So I tried to really be an extension of him at all points. So, if he was reading Multipliers, or if he was reading The Infinite Game, or Tools of Titans, or Organizational Physics, or Scaling Up, or Traction, or Rocket Fuel, whatever it was, I was reading those as well. Fierce Conversations is one of my favorites, and probably one that I would recommend the most to people in my position as well.
Why was it your favorite?
Fierce Conversations? Yeah, it gave me a framework to have more difficult conversations, which I know is often challenging for a lot of individuals in traditional assistant roles. It's sometimes hard to speak up and ask for what you want, or to, ask some of the tougher questions. So I just thought it's just a great framework for leadership in general, and for asking good questions.
That's awesome. What do you like to do in your personal life?
Don't you have a list of all the things that I like to do in my personal life?
I do.
I know, but I'm asking for these guys. You and I know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love to read. I love to learn about business. I like to go kayaking. We live in Vermont, so being outside as much as possible until winter comes is huge for me. I do like to travel, but that's been cut short a little bit this year.
Yeah.
And then my sister and I are actually working right now on a blog and blog/website. So that'll be launching here shortly. So I do enjoy doing that sort of thing. Yeah, that's it.
What's that blog or website going to be about?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more lifestyle. So we're going to be, we're kind of like, right now we're kind of thinking female version of the Joe Rogan Experience.
I love it.
And like actually talking about real things, right? Like not lifestyle, because we're basic. We're basic, and I like my pumpkin spice and my Real Housewives, and we actually want to talk about more in-depth issues as well, about relationships, and for her, she's a mom, so parenthood and marriages and all of those things.
That's cool. Awesome. The shit show of life, the stuff people don't talk about. That could be blog. That's cool. That's awesome. Do you have a blog now?
I do blog through the Founder and the Force Multiplier website, so I do have that blog.
All right. And if somebody wants to follow you or like follow up to what you're up to, where do they find you?
Yeah, Instagram is always good. Facebook,
I'm
LinkedIn.
going right now, Instagram.
Yeah.
Is it your
If you
name?
just type in my name, I'm probably one of the few Hallie Warners. There might be a couple other, but I'm usually show up near the top. You can always email me at hallie@adamhergenrother.com. Sometimes if I don't respond on social, email. Is that me? Yes.
I'm already following you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That's super.
All right,
cool.
Michelle probably wants to be David's chief of staff, so I know she has questions.
No, you're not going to apply for that job?
You could be a chief of staff. Do you have any questions for Hallie?
No, not at the moment.
Really?
Do people try to come and like be like, hey, Hallie, I'll offer you a position to
Ooh,
come
that's
work
a good
for me?
question.
No, they have,
That's
it has happened a couple of times more in the earlier days when people probably didn't know that, our relationship is so tied together now, so now people are just like, why even ask? And no, what people come and ask me is, how do I hire a you? They don't say, can I hire you?
And then you say, you don't want to hire me. You want to hire the best person for you.
Yes, and then we go through this whole conversation about what is it that you actually want. Sometimes they actually just want a personal assistant. And I'm like, well, that's not me. So, or sometimes they need a COO. And I said, well, that's also not me. That's great though, that you're learning what you actually want.
I took career visioning with Adam a while back. It was really good. It was many years ago. And one of the things he said in that class was at some point your checkbook becomes your biggest weapon. Do you agree with that? Do you think it's true? And can you unravel what that means a little bit? Because that always stuck in my mind for like 5 years.
Yeah. By the way, he's teaching career visioning next week virtually, if you want to join.
That's the class he's teaching, not
told
business
you
planning
that.
clinic. It's completely different.
Whatever, man.
Oh yeah, he's not teaching that. I don't know who is.
All right, let's find out. Can you send me the link to my email for career visioning?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Thank you.
So at some point you use your checkbook as a weapon. Basically, it could mean a couple of different things. When he was talking about career visioning, it really meant that you can start leveling up the bracket that you pay talent for. So obviously in the beginning, when you do what you can with the resources that you have and you hire the best talent with the financial resources that you have at your disposal, as things grow, you're just getting a different level of talent. And sometimes you have to take that leap into the next bracket of talent in order to push your organization forward, even though it might feel like a bit of a risk, but it's ultimately an investment.
Can I ask you a question based on what you just said? When you go into the next bracket of hiring talent, have you found that you always get what you pay for, or have you found that sometimes you pay and you know what I mean? Like, what was your?
Yeah. Yes, we have done. Yeah, it's such a great question. We have jumped the bracket, right, and gone at a higher thing because our organization was getting complex, and we're like, okay, we got to bring in this person. They did not work out. We did that twice actually. Twice.
Somebody you're like, oh my God, we're paying them like crazy amount of money.
And great references, and they had a great track record and all of that stuff. But and this is why I always go back to, they need to be so entrepreneurial, because the nature of our organization, and we are in scale up mode for most of our companies, that when you hire somebody at that higher salary who might have just actually been middle management in a larger company, they're not going to survive in this, where we're moving and shifting and changing things on the fly and having to get your hands dirty sometimes. And then we shift course again. So yeah, we definitely learned that we had to be a little bit more discerning on a couple. This happened like years ago, but it was a good lesson.
And then you got better as time went on.
Yeah.
So basically, go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and here's the other thing that he probably meant by that too is, and this is, I guess, that he and I have found, when we are hiring talent, we want to hire proven at this point, and proven generally costs more money. And you're right, it doesn't always translate, but we're just there's too many things going on to to hire that emerging talent in some of our positions, simply because we don't necessarily need to anymore, and we don't have the time or the bandwidth to, or the patience or the behavioral, the behavior in order to work with emerging talent.
The patience, right? Because it takes time, right? It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And if you pay in different brackets, you might not have to spend as much energy.
Totally.
Oh man. Boom. Mic
See,
drop.
you cheap bastard.
Jeez. That's pretty cool.
Who are your mentors or people that you look up to? I know, like, when we asked Adam this question, he was talking about, like, Warren Buffett and Gary Keller, but for you, is that the same or is it a little bit different?
No, sorry, I was gonna just make a joke and then
You can.
and then I decided to not make that joke. Okay.
We love
Oh,
jokes. Come on.
Don't go back
Dude,
on
this
a joke.
podcast is all
If this wasn't like recorded live, whatever, I probably would have said it. But
It's not being recorded.
We're shutting everything down right now.
I can see it. Yeah, so who are my mentors? Yeah, there's a lot of different, like, I love Marie Forleo. She's somebody I follow often. I like some of the influencers, like, and the network marketers, because I just think that they are really good at positioning themselves. So Angie Velmar is somebody that I follow, and she's a YouTuber and like all of that stuff. So I like watching what she does. Obviously Brene Brown is one that anything that she writes or puts out, I'm obsessed with. Who else? Sarah Blakely, Monique Hellstrom. Monique is Simon Sinek's former chief of staff. So worked with him for about 10 years and I know her pretty well. So she's fabulous. Gosh, those are the big ones that come to mind right away.
Cool. Has Adam did you think that, did like joining forces with him or finding that company at the time, did you think like it was going to be a regular job and then it made such a huge impact on your life? Did it make a huge impact on your life? Was your life trajectory changed? Or was it going to be the same no matter what? Like you were going to just kill it?
Yeah. You asked such good questions. Somebody else asked, I think, Adam that not too long ago, maybe a year or so ago, similar question, like, oh, well, what happens if Hallie hadn't come into your life or whatever? And this is my take on it. Adam and I were both going to be successful no matter what. Yeah. We did, like, if I wasn't in his life, he would still be where he is. And I think conversely, if he wasn't in my life, I still would, to a certain degree, be where I am. We just are very driven to succeed, and our careers in business are really important to us.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that we have, I think, a lot of fun and a lot of creativity working together. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. So I have one more question and then I'll stop.
He says that all the time, but that's not
until the next one comes to mind.
Yeah.
So it's like October. Do you do your, what is it, like year-end review or whatever you do in October? Are you doing that? Did you do that?
You mean like a review with myself and Adam, or meaning like our annual planning?
Like your annual planning.
Yeah, so we're actually kind of in the midst of that right now. All of the other companies are doing that there, so I'm kind of paused a little bit because I, of course, will do it for all of Adam Hergenrother companies.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to get some feedback from what they're working on and where some of their specific metrics, and then I will do a more holistic view for all of Adam Hergenrother companies. But yeah, like Hergenrother Realty Group's advance is coming up in 2 weeks. So we're doing a virtual advance in 2 weeks for that company. BlackRock will have their annual planning. Adam and I have been doing some of that planning. Like, we know what everyone needs to be doing. We just need to get it down on paper in the next month or so.
And how long is that process? Like, how long does it usually take?
Are
you going till the end of the year? Like, is it 2 months? Like, crazy?
To plan?
Yeah.
No. About a week probably for each company, as there's either presidents or COOs are putting their plans together. I mean, it's not that complex. We know what the number is that we need to hit, and there's probably like 3 or 4 strategies to get there. Yeah. And then we really look at the stuff quarterly because things change. I mean, even doing an annual plan, I mean, how effective is an annual plan when things change all the time? And we saw that this year. So while we know where we are going in a year or 5 years from now, we are very open to like adjusting the strategies along the way. So we kind of go from the bigger picture about what the goals are, and then are open to pivoting as needed.
And one more question.
I told her.
Do you do the 3-year like plan that Adam does? Like, you know, my 3-year goals that I'm going to accomplish instead of doing a 5 or a 10-year plan? Do you do that as well?
Yeah, the future self. Maybe that's what you're talking about. Yeah. So I do that as well. And we have this thing called Your Future Self. I don't know if you guys have signed up for it or not.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what you were just discussing about putting your future self in for those 6 categories of your life. Well, we have this program. If you just go onto our website at adamhergenrother.com/future, and you put in your goals for the 3 years ahead of time, you actually get it emailed to yourself every day with a little message as well. And then it is front and center, because who's not in their email every single day, right? So every day you get your future self emailed to you, and you can read it really quickly when you're, commuting, or I don't know if anyone is commuting right now. Probably not that many people. But if you're commuting, or when you're just kind of getting ready for the day, or when you're sitting down and looking through your emails first thing, you can read your future self. And if you read it every day, inevitably it's going to happen.
It like stays at the forefront of your mind.
Totally. The decisions you make start aligning with where you want to go.
Do you think that goals have to be believable, or there can be like crazy goals that are just like insane?
Well, yeah, I think there's like those big goals, right? Like putting people on Mars. Like that's a big one, but that's not even really insane to Elon Musk. Like I'm sure he'll make it happen. And then there's like the more concrete, what are the measurable goals? So that's his big goal, right? But then along the way, he's going to have some sort of measurable things that are far more attainable throughout that process leading up to getting people on Mars. So I think both.
That's awesome. What about accountability? If you say you don't have to let a lot of people go, right? But is that because you hold them all accountable to what they're supposed to do, and they're doing what they're supposed to do? And if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, how fast does that get like mediated?
Quickly, yeah. So I think it actually starts a little bit before that, which with being incredibly clear on our standards and expectations. So we start there, and then and then it's making sure that we just follow the model of weekly meetings where we talk about what are the goals and the things that need to get accomplished this week. Did you do them? Did you not? I mean, it's not that difficult. I mean, it could be more difficult on the real estate side of things. I don't work with agents, so that's a bit of a different animal, right? And almost holding them accountable to when you can't actually tell them what to do is a different challenge. So they have to really buy into it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
Yeah. So I mean, I work with staff. I don't necessarily work with agents or contractors. So we lay out the standards and expectations. We meet weekly to make sure we're on point and on target. We adjust if needed, and then people either step up to it, or they step out into a different opportunity.
So basically what you're saying is agents are a different breed. They're a special show.
Yeah, and I can't speak very well to working with agents. I just haven't in such a long time. But I do think if you create a culture of accountability, which we have, and you create a culture of standards and expectations, and a culture which I know our leadership team for Hergenrother Realty Group has done such a great job of teamwork and holding each other accountable, being accountable to each other and to the team. When you create a culture like that, the accountability it's not necessarily a conversation. It's, are you an accountable individual or are you not?
That's good. So Hergenrother Realty Group basically runs and operates itself with its own leadership, its own,
Correct. Yeah.
The numbers that they put up is all within that organization. So
Yes.
And then does one person from that organization kind of meet and reports to you and Adam?
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 really that are kind of part of that leadership team that, depending on what they're reporting, will report back to us. And I mean, we're still involved in terms of maybe reviewing some things or offering our advice or opinion on various things that are happening, or helping them make connections with different people that's actually another large piece of what I do is just networking for larger opportunities, for business opportunities.
Yeah.
And bringing different ideas and opportunities to the table for our various companies.
How do you attract bigger talent, like people with big goals that are entrepreneurial with big visions, and bring them into your organization and keep them there? Because I find like a lot of entrepreneurial people always probably think like, why can't I just do it on my own? Or at least when they get to a certain level, they're like, well, like I could do this. I'm building this company as well. So how do you attract and keep that kind of talent?
Yes. Okay. So yeah, that's a great question. And you will lose people who want to go do it on their own, right? And that's totally fine. But you can mitigate that by creating, and this is what Adam is so intentional about, and what he and I collectively are so intentional about, which is creating this bigger world, where anybody who does enter into it, whether they enter as an agent in one of his market centers, or they enter in as a CFO for one of his companies, whatever it is, that the opportunities, and that's why we are so intentional about looking for these bigger opportunities and creating this bigger world, so that no matter where you are at in our organization, you always can see a place to grow, and you can see that your success you can succeed and hit whatever your goals are within our company. And if we have really highly entrepreneurial people like that, then they may actually just go run another one of our companies, or they may go run another one of our divisions, or start their own podcast underneath our umbrella, or we'll help them write a book. Like there's enough opportunity for all of us if you buy into the culture and what we're creating and what we're doing. And then that's my job, and Adam's job is just to keep making that world bigger and bigger and bigger.
So basically it's like together everyone achieves more. We're going to help you guys get to whatever level of success that you want within our organization. You're never going to hit it. You make them see the vision that they're never going to really hit a plateau where they can't do something without you guys. In other words, they're going to
at least that's our hope. Yeah. I mean, some people just may have different ideas of what they want, but yeah, ultimately that's our hope, that they would stay and create within our ecosystem that we're creating.
And I once heard Gary Vee say this quote. He was like, it's better to be like the seventh lady or the administrator at Microsoft, right? If that's your skill set, because she became a millionaire, than it is to go off and try to start your own company. But a lot of times when people get into it and they do well, they forget about that. So what are other ways to help them see that vision? Like this is what your role is, this is what you're best suited for.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this answers your question, but another thing that just came to mind as we were chatting about that was that sometimes what people are really looking for is the leverage as well, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not just that you want more time. You sometimes just want, more money. You sometimes just want more time. Well, when you are a part of this bigger world or this bigger ecosystem, then there's additional opportunities for leverage and to get time back in your life. And that for us is a big selling point, because our company is so much about personal growth and work-life integration. Yeah. So a lot of people who are attracted to our brand and to our organization as a whole are people who are looking for a holistic approach to life. So it isn't only about hitting this certain income, although in best case scenarios that they get both, right?
Yeah, no, that does answer my question. That's actually a great point. So basically, like if say for me, I'll use me as an example. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing my own thing, but you're like, hey, you can come into our world, you can hit your goals faster, and it's not all on you. You can take a vacation, whatever. We got coverage, we got a team. So just basically send me the application. Well, we'll get it. If you say you're doing your own thing, I'm gonna go get one of those bats, and we'll figure that out. I'm a free agent now, Adam.
I actually do have a question.
There we go. It's getting started. The show starts. Yeah.
No, it's actually for you in your position. Do you feel the same way? Like you're saying this about everybody that works in your organization, but you're at the top basically. Do you still feel like even though you're his right-hand person, you still have room to grow, or do you feel like that's it for you? There's nothing else you can do at this point?
Such a great question. Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't want any other. I mean, I have no desire to be in any other position in our company on it. Like, and I've actually talked to Adam about that before. Like, if I left, and I've talked to my coach about this and everything. Like, if I ever left working with Adam, I would have to work. I'd either have to work for myself, or I'd have to work for a very high profile, like either well-known celebrity, like, you know, something like that, somebody in government, somebody who's like super.
I'm right here.
Like, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, it just would need to be this another visionary leader. I have been spoiled to a certain degree with the leadership that I have and the opportunities that I've had and the freedom that I have in my role, that it would be very difficult for me to work with anybody else who wasn't, and not being at the top, honestly, like being right next to the top, and working with somebody in that capacity. So that would be hard for me. And yeah, because we have so many exciting things that we're working on. So it never stops for me, and it's just more growth. Yeah.
So you could be my chief of staff.
Wow, that was awesome. That was awesome. Is there anything we didn't ask you that we should have asked you?
No, gosh, you guys asked a lot of really great questions.
All right. That was awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time. We truly do appreciate it. And it's a great follow-up for the conversation we had with Adam. I think it's going to open up a lot of people's perspective. Like, about together we can accomplish so much more sometimes than individually.
Mm.
And I know you alluded to this. Like, yeah, he would have been still Adam and you still would have been Hallie somewhere else. But who knows? Maybe together you're like way further, way faster than the other approach. But nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. All right. Any final words of wisdom?
No, I just wish I had listened to Adam's podcast first before I got on so that I didn't contradict him. But wait for that now.
I'll send it to you. It aligned perfectly. You guys are a good match. You said everything that he said.
If you contradicted him, it would have happened long before our podcast.
Thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
It was so good to talk to you.
We'll post both of them. They'll be on iTunes and stuff, and I'll send you the links.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right,
Appreciate it.
bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.